said earlier, you need an aluminum Coke can. That sounded weird. You're going to replicate the former. You need something about that same thickness. It'll show if the coil is going to fit down in the gap, because it's going to have to go on that former. So it's not just the coil part I wrapped, but this isn't a really Coke can. Guess what company that is? It's not Coke. But it works. It's aluminum. And that's, like I said, it might be brass. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. Just want a similar thickness. See that? You want a similar thickness to make sure it's going to fit in there. So I got it. It's going to go wrap around the outer edge of the coil. And I got to check it down in the gap. I'll be placing them both down in the gap, tightening the aluminum around the copper, and making sure it's going to fit with some hover room. Now there isn't much hover room at the T-yoke pole part because the coil is a little bit too small. I'm going to have to make it bigger next time, but I do need to make sure that I'll have room on the outer part as well. It looks like a tight alignment. Some speakers, the alignment's not too tight. The Alpine Type R is a tight alignment, so it's going to be a little bit tricky, but bear with me. Okay, we got that, we got masking tape around it to hold it, and it's not the way that the voice coil would be connected to the former, because this is representing the former and it's on the outside rather than the inner side, but it's still taking up about the same diameter, and it lets me hold on to it easier to situate it there. As you can see, it has hover, but it's just not enough. It will scrape eventually, because even though the coil moves up and down, it also has a slight wobble side to side, and you want to take into account that when you're wrapping the coil, the real coil. So now I'm stuck with a problem. You see those black marks I put on it? It's under the tape. I wound one wind plus up to about here. That's one wind around, and then to there, almost about a half of the way again. And that might be too much, so I'm just thinking. I'm using a lot of estimation, because I know that the coil's got to come wider, and I know that it does not take much tape to make a difference when you wrap the second coil. So I'm kind of scared if it gets too wide it won't fit in there. This one fits, and it's got just a little room before it hits the front plate, so I'm just going to make my guess, and I can't really help it if it's wrong. I'll know it by the time it's done. All you can do is redo it, I guess. Unless you have a lathe, then that's a whole nother story. You can lathe down the T-yoke pole, you can remove the T-yoke pole, get it shaved down a little bit, or shave down the front plate, one or the other, but let's try to avoid that, okay? I've been there, done that, I don't want to again. For now, I'm going to make my estimated guess on how much larger I need to wrap this, and it's never much. Sometimes it's as little as a ½ inch to an inch or so. I did about 7 or 8 inches, and I'm thinking of pulling it back some. It's just going to take some thought for a little while. And back to here again. It's going to be ready to wrap. And the split on it. See how it starts off small and it's getting wider? I showed you before that it has to be compressed in, because when you wrap the coil it's going to pull it down. See how much I just did with my fingers? The coil, wind by wind, just tightens it down on it, and it'll be really close. You don't want it to be exactly as thin as that right there, because it'd be really hard to align. You want it to be just a little bit thicker. When it's done, I'll show you what it looks like, and I'll show you that it'll fit down into the pole piece, hover right between the pole piece and the front plate just perfectly. I thought I would show a little more of my heat cure oven right now. I took the top off on it, and well, I got it so dark, the exposure's down because I'm going to turn one of the bulbs on here. There we go. That's the 150 watt bulb. Here's a 500. 500. But it's on my resistor. Not as bright, is it? That's where it's 80 watt selection. But I can bypass it to make it 500. Alright, about to get this sucker in, get it up to temperature.